we have to look at the actual statement, practice makes perfect. Okay, so practice makes perfect. But where does the practicing end and where does being perfect actually begin? That's where do we actually start to do it? So the practicing to make perfect, yeah, you got to practice, you got to get good at your skill, whether it's public speaking, for example, it's like a certain amount of exposure to that sort of thing, small or big. Yeah, there's a certain amount. If you've got, if you're practicing to do like even EFT, for example, you've got to practice to actually get good at things, but eventually you got to do it. So the practicing to make perfect, it's okay, but there's eventually a detachment from the practicing to the actual perfecting. Now, when we actually look at it even deeper, we find it's all subjective. It's really both the practicing and the perfecting, because perfect to who? Who are we actually perfecting to? Is it ourselves? Is it to other people? Are we actually trying to achieve something more than what we actually are yet capable of? Because with practicing, as Stephen says, you're going to make failures along the way. It's how you learn. It's how you get better as a person. Growing up, you fell over many times, stood up, and then you got better at walking, or got better at talking, or got better at whatever it was. You had to fail to actually get better. You had to taste the bitter to get to the sweet. So where does actually that letting go of that perceived or subjective perfection and actually getting to actually doing what you want, sort of thing? And it sounds less like sexy in the sense of like rhyming and all that, but it's almost like when we look at, there's a Taoist principle called Wu Wei. Now everyone's talking about flow states and all that sort of thing, which has been talked about many thousands of years before. So Wu Wei, when you look at it, it roughly translates to non-action or effortless action, sort of thing. And many people think, oh, non-action, I just do nothing. It's like, yeah, it's like you can, but nothing is what you'll achieve. But the essence of Wu Wei is doing something. Like you can practice something, but eventually you got to let go to the point where it becomes second nature. A lot of your body is actually doing a Wu Wei at the moment. It's the autonomic nervous system that's taking care of your breathing, your heartbeat, everything like that. It's actually subconsciously just effortlessly doing it. It's not having to really think about having to like, am I breathing my lungs perfectly? Is the heartbeat, did that last heartbeat perfect, sort of thing? It's not actually doing it. It's effortless. And sometimes when we're practicing for this perfection, it's a matter of like cultivating enough of your own skill to eventually let it go and actually trust that it's second nature. An example, you have someone that's practicing a piano, for example. Now, they can practice all they want, but you rarely see that, you know, like everyone gather in a concert hall to see you practicing, sort of thing. Eventually, you have to trust in your skill and know that when you go on stage or in front of whoever it is, that you're just going to do it. And you find that you're actually doing it sometimes without conscious thought. You're in that flow state. So, and it's not about achieving a flow state. It's just about confidently do it. How often do you have to consciously think about walking or anything, sort of thing, that you normally do in your day? You're just doing it. You're in a state of Wu Wei. It's your effortless action. You don't have to have some great achievement. It happens in every part of the day. But this practicing to make perfect, it's almost like a practicing to achieve Wu Wei. A practicing to get good at something to where you no longer have to think about it. It's second nature. That is probably more where practicing to make perfect, because once again, where does the practicing end and where does the perfect begin? There's always a dividing line in between the practice and the perfection. Now, perfection, as I said, and as Stephen said, the practicing is subjective. So is the perfection, because it's kind of like that saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure, or vice versa. One man's trash is another man's treasure. And what I mean by that is, take art, for example. It is highly subjective. You might see one painting that is done by someone of high skill and just go, well, that's not for me. It just looks like someone fell over and threw paint at the same time, sort of thing. But at the same time, but that's worth millions because the person actually spent a lot of time practicing, sort of thing. But to you, it's subjective. It's like, that's not good to me. I like that painting of like a dog holding a bone, sort of thing. It's like that to you can relate to, sort of thing. So that's perfection to you. So what we could actually be doing is trying to cultivate this state of perfection that is only perfect to probably yourself or maybe a group of people. Now, eventually it's like you've got to let that element of perfection, because there is actually no real perfection in the world. It's subjective. It's kind of like prettiness, for example. I think I talked about this in another intuitive tap and chat, where it's like beauty is subjective, sort of thing. It's like what's beautiful to some is probably ugly to others, sort of thing. So what you're actually trying to achieve is only actually in your own mind, and probably to only a limited people. But the energy, the like trying to actually achieve something that is perfect, it's like it's trying to create this golden thing that you think might actually achieve this greatness. And when we look at what is actually stopping us from that dividing line between perfection or wu wei, or just actually going out there and living life and being in yourself, second nature, and achieving things, is an element of fear. Because sometimes it's not really perfection, practicing to get perfection. It's procrastinating to eventually get to perfection. It's like this one more detail, that thing. It's like, if I had the right equipment, it's this and that. And it's like, it's almost like with the fear, the dream is never here, sort of thing. It just doesn't actually get here, because we're limited by trying to actually create something. And in a sense, it's almost like I need to create this beautiful thing to get acceptance. Almost, it's like there's this thing where I just need to actually perfect it. But that dividing line of fear, or it could be like, it's actually too hard, it's beyond me, sort of thing. Or it could be always like, I'm gonna do it, in Tomorrowland, I'll actually achieve this perfection, sort of thing. It's always tomorrow, it's always I'm gonna do it. And you never want to get to life where the I'm gonna is gonna be to where I'm a goner, and I'm looking back at life with regret. I'm thinking, maybe I should have just done it. Maybe I should have just put it out there and see what happens. And when I look at art, sort of thing, the only way to get good at art is to trial and error. It's to draw and make errors. It's like we all start off with stick figures at some stage, sort of thing, and it might remain at stick figures if you have no interest in art, but it might get better. You might get more detail, but never do you sit down and go, oh, Mona Lisa, no worries. Where's my millions? A delusion. But it's actually fear that actually stops us. And sometimes it's an internal fear, but that internal fear is actually sometimes from your environment, sort of thing. It's like we normally don't actually start from zero going, hey, I suck at drawing, I shouldn't do that. Whenever you look at kids drawing, they're just scribbling away, they're having a good old time, sort of thing. So we then get told that maybe we're not good at art, or maybe we see someone else's, like I talked about, that comparative judgment complex, sort of thing, where it's like, oh, his picture is better than mine, or they're doing better at life than this, and they're way down the track, I'll never achieve that, sort of thing. So fear and self-doubt get in the way, and self-doubt is just like a beating up on self, which eventually gets back to fear sooner or later, and it stops you from actually achieving. That person that's down the track, or that person that's achieving or whatever sort of thing, also started from zero. They also probably had the same self-doubts. It's whether you actually tune into that part of yourself that is actually telling yourself you suck. And you don't suck. It's just you're learning. Now, no school or any learning process should actually begin with, okay, girls and boys, today you suck. I just want to establish this now. Now let's learn this really complex thing. It should be a cultivating, a nurturing within ourselves to go, hey, I'm not good at this yet, but I'm learning. I'm trying to get better at this sort of thing. I'm trying to achieve something, and I want something in my life that I feel I deserve, and maybe others might benefit from it. So I'm going to give myself time and patience to actually learn this, rather than I suck, I don't deserve this. But it's sometimes that programming that we get told, which once again, if you're going out to speak in front of a big public audience or online or whatever it is, we have the fight, flight, freeze response sort of thing. So we're there, we've got all these eyes upon us. We're like, oh, it's like, if I screw up, I'm going to get eaten sort of thing. So it's like, it makes it hard to actually achieve, which comes down to fear at the end of the day. And once again, fear makes the dreams disappear. Your dreams of what you want to achieve in life. You don't want to get to that stage where you're a goner, or I'm going to do this till I'm a goner, and look back in your life and go, crap, I should have done that. And that can be from anything from achieving things in life or just being around people sort of thing. It's like, oh, do I have to do this sort of thing? It's like, it's a matter of being strong in yourself to actually go out there. And if people are going to put you down, if people are going to make you feel like crap, and that ain't you, that's their insecurity, that's their fear putting on you to actually keep you where you are. Because like in a herd mentality, it's scary for the actual person to go out and venture into new territory. I think I did a briefing. It was beyond it was one of the early briefings. I'm trying to remember. It was limitless, or it was a briefing, bound by limitations. There we go. It was bound by limitations. It's like whoever crossed the horizon line to discover new worlds sort of thing, they weren't staying amongst the herd and going, yeah, it's like you drop off the face of the earth once you get past that horizon line sort of thing. It's like you go past the horizon line, there's another horizon line, and you keep on going. So it's like you actually achieve more by stepping into the fear and your own fear, and not listening to the outside voices, because you've got enough of inside voices. You don't need outside voices telling you how you suck. No achievement in life comes where you stay in a sense of security or insecurity, or you stay in your comfort zone. You have to step out of that discomfort zone to actually get to any sort of benefit in life. You can sit on the couch and do nothing if you take the Wu Wei principle incorrectly, or you could sit on the couch and go, yeah, I'll manifest $1 million sort of thing. But if you ain't doing anything, you ain't going to get anything sort of thing. You got to give to actually receive. And if you're not giving, if you're not putting yourself out there, if you're not going past that point of perfectionism to actually that point of practicing to a subjective perfectionism, which is when we get to that perfectionism, when we get past that and go, oh, actually, I could probably do that perfectionism a little bit better sort of thing. There was things like, you actually haven't achieved the perfectionism. It's subjective. You will look back. There's plenty of tap and chats or bro folks where I've looked back and gone, hey, I probably should have shut up then, or I should have like said less then, or audio or whatever. I've learned from that. So it wasn't actually perfect. It was a learning experience. So dropping that expectation, dropping that demand that you actually have to achieve perfectionism, which is just perfect to who, it's a learning experience. So being kind to yourself, letting go of that fear, letting go of that demand upon yourself, to force yourself to get to a deadline to actually achieve something, sort of thing. It's like, what deadline, what imaginary line have you drawn that you have to actually put yourself to the point where you might have headaches, lack of sleep, sort of thing? Yeah, you'll get to perfectionism, but is your health actually there to carry you forward past that deadline, sort of thing? Or are you falling over on the deadline, sort of thing? You need to actually let go. You need to actually be able to cultivate enough of your own skill, be confident in your own skill, and then just let it go. Let whatever happens. And if there's stuff ups, learn from the stuff ups. Don't go and don't blame other people, sort of thing, because it's your journey that you're going on, sort of thing. You have to actually assess what is actually done, sort of thing. It's like, I know it's morbid, but like with a plane accident, sort of thing, it's like I'll go to the black box and go, okay, well, this is what happens. This is how we can actually make things secure in the future, sort of thing. It's like, even from a tragedy, they're actually trying to make it so other people can actually live a bit better, sort of thing. So learning from those accidents, learning from those stuff ups, learning from even the fear, because if we like don't actually look at the fear, if we don't actually like learn from it, then it's actually something that if we don't actually acknowledge it, then we won't know how much of a debilitating effect that it could have on other future decisions as well. So being familiar with fear, being comfortable with fear, and being able to move through fear, going, this is actually that block that's coming up. This is that block that's stopping me from achieving Wu Wei, or achieving just a second nature in things. And that's actually stopping me. So if I can be familiar with that fear, know that that's the thing that's stopping me, then navigating through, it's like, because the fear can actually be a good thing of like, hey, this might not actually be a good decision. But is it a good decision because you're scared, or is it a good like a bad decision in the sense of this is actually not what you should be doing, because there's plenty of red flags, sort of thing. Go do, just do it. Just do what you need to do. Otherwise, you will just be always sitting in regret. You'll always be sitting in the what if. And if it ain't perfect, then it's just a start. It's a step of many. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a first single step. It's like, you can think about journeying for 1,000 miles, but that's where it'll be. You'll never get to your end destination without taking that first step. Then another one. You might trip over, get up, keep moving. If people want to divert you and say, come look at this great thing of how we think you suck, avert your eyes, keep your focus forward, keep walking till you get to your destination. Otherwise, you'll just still be at the start line going, need to like perfect tying my shoelace and my socks right. It's like, do. So that said, I am Dion from Eflowtion, and I hope you liked that tap and chat. Thank you very much to Stephen Whitney for the inspiration. We synchronized, our energy synced. It was like a flow state happening, sort of thing. It's like, I just finished that INFJ tap and chat, and it's like, release that. It's like coherence, everything sort of happening, sort of thing, vibing together. So I think with energy, give yourself the boost that you need and go do now. Don't listen to the I will do it tomorrow. I'm Dion from Eflowtion. Have a good one.